Hi, I'm Valerie Engelhart, and in this video I am painting a vine of wisteria very loosely in watercolor. So I am starting with some Hanamule rough press paper, my size 10 Princeton Neptune round brush, and I started with some Winsor & Newton green gold, and then to add a little bit of dimension, I'm going in with some Daniel Smith Amazonite Genuine. For this painting, I want to use a bunch of really bright, springy, mood-lifting colors. So once I was pretty happy with the vine that I had painted, I topped it with cling film. And as you can see, my cling film stays pretty dirty, and I just reuse it over and over. A nice little thing about that is sometimes it will put a little extra color into whatever it is I'm painting, so it's unintentional and cannot be replicated. So now I'm going in with some Rhodonite Genuine. This is my favorite pink by Daniel Smith. And so I lifted up my cling film because the cling film keeps that area wet longer and gives it the lovely leafy vein textures. But I want there to be connection from the vine to the wisteria blossoms. And so I lift it, have the pink connect. That way there's not a hard line. And I do have my paper up at a slight angle so that the water flows downward. Now I'm going in with Rockwell Art. This one is Valentine Purple, and it's very similar to Daniel Smith's Lavender. Now I'm going in with another Rockwell Art color. This one is, I think, Royal Purple. And I like this one because it's a warmer purple. It separates into some pink and blue. So I like these colors when they separate and you get different tones. But of all of the colors on my palette, the purple is the only one that does it, that royal purple. And if you are looking for a substitute, Daniel Smith Imperial Purple is very similar. I even checked the back of the tubes to see what pigments were used, to see if it was the same pigments, and I was surprised to find out that they weren't. And yet, on paper, they look very similar. So now I'm going in with some salt on that first wisteria blossom. I want some kind of that sparkly, blossomy texture. And when I'm going in now, dotting in that darker purple, I'm imagining where that part is on the wisteria that would look like that. I don't know all the technical names of that part of the flower, but I do see these every spring. We have them growing in our garden and they look so romantic, and they grow alongside these pink roses we have, and they're super fragrant. And just every year I see them and it's just so mood uplifting. It looks like something you would see at an English royal afternoon tea party. They're just so beautiful. So the reason that I'm working as quickly as I am, I have sped this footage up to 200%. This first wash really is the foundation of what I'm doing, and it took about 20 minutes to do this wash. So I went and popped in a little bit of green gold. One thing I like about green gold is it really reads yellow, but it has enough of that earthy green so where it's not too in your face, even though it does look pretty fluorescent. But I like that it's a little bit of a bully color. It will push things out of the way. And since it is a lighter value than the purples that I'm using, having that little bit of green to push away, I like the effect. And on wisteria, even though they look like shades of purple or purple and white, there is that green there. And I wanted to illustrate that. Plus, just purple gets a little boring. Having that bright green, especially a green that leans yellow, so it would lean into a complementary color, brings a lot more visual interest. But essentially, I'm just doing the same thing over and over, going from left to right, paint in that conical, triangular type shape. And I'm not paying too much attention to the individual blossoms. And by not paying too much attention, I mean I'm basically paying no attention. I'm keeping in mind the structure of how the little individual flowers come off of that vine. Because I do want this to have a sense of realism, I would say impressionist abstract realism. But I do want that loose, atmospheric appearance, and so when I paint it, I'm making sure that they are all connected to where you can't exactly tell where one starts and it stops. I really love this pink. Going in with the pink first does give it a lovely glow, and before doing this painting, I like to do, especially if I'm going to work on a really big piece of paper and do a serious painting, I'll do a super quick study. And some artists do studies that are practically beautiful finished paintings in and of themselves. Mine are not. Mine are like a scrap of paper that I just grab and throw color on just to see if I like the vibe. Because if I put the colors down, and sure, it might be a series of purples and it might be convincing, but do I feel energized? Do I feel gung-ho, like I am ready to paint? If the answer is no, especially on what turned out to be a very labor-intensive subject, then I would have set myself up for failure from the beginning. So I would recommend just go ahead, play with a few colors on just a scrap piece of paper and make sure you like how those colors are working together before you go straight into your big piece of paper. Now, one thing I could have done to also make this maybe a little more interesting is like left that one right there just completely pink. Now it's fun to look back on these. Yeah, like left that little bit of purple at the bottom. That I think would have been visually interesting, and maybe if I were to do this again, I would try that. But I'm going to be honest, this painting took so long. The first wash was the most fun, took about 20 minutes to do, but dear Lord. And we'll go into it once I get into the detail portion, but I'm going to go ahead and give you a warning. If you want to paint wisteria like this, you have to want to. You have to really want to. And at the time I did. Wisteria has been something on my list of painting since I began watercolor back in 2019, but I never felt confident enough to do, or I knew that with my short attention span, I would end up abandoning it. But lately I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this. It is my time to do this. I'm ready for wisteria. And a couple hours in, I was like, I did this to myself. Why did I do this? I don't ever want to see another wisteria again. It's not true. I actually really love the flower and I can't wait to see them in our garden. But I probably won't paint another one for a while. Or at least not another big cluster of them. Maybe I'll do a study of doing like one. So now I'm just splattering some of that purple in, trying to shake things up, get a little more texture going. And when painting these, notice how I'm leaving little bits of white space. On this last one, I end up actually not leaving as much white space as I should. So when it came time to put in all the details, it made things much harder. Whenever you have all of that salt texture and like that first one all the way to the left, all of that variation makes it very easy to pick out areas to build your blossoms, because the groundwork has already been set up, the watercolor did its magic, and now you're just tweaking things and doing a little negative painting. But on this last one that I'm doing, I didn't leave as much white space as I should have. I really should have done it better. And even though it came out okay in the end, I had to really use my imagination because it didn't have all of those lovely marks like the other wisteria had. And in one case, that might actually be a good thing, making it a little different from the others, but learn from my work, try and leave a little more white space, and make sure you've got a good flow going. I had tried lifting some areas, but I wasn't getting enough of a lift to give me what I wanted, but maybe I should have, for that last wisteria, tried lifting again. Another thing about that green gold is it is a very staining color. So once it's down, it is down. So I let it dry naturally. You have to let it dry naturally if you want all of those beautiful watercolor marks. And now I'm going in with this teeny tiny liner brush, and I'm only going to show a little bit because essentially it's a repetition, second verse, same as the first, except those verses went on forever. This was a marathon. This was not for the faint of heart or somebody with a very restrained attention span. Like, I have the attention span of a rodent. So if you're the kind of person who can sit and meticulously paint, because even though this is a loose painting, it was still labor intensive and meticulous. If you're that kind of person who loves doing all of that little line work, paint Wisteria, this is for you. If you are someone who likes really big shapes, like that elephant I did last week, then maybe Wisteria, I mean, try it. Who knows, you might love it. Or you might drive yourself crazy. But you know what? Do it for the experience. Drive yourself crazy, but then have a beautiful painting at the end. Maybe you'll learn a bit about yourself. Maybe I'm a masochist. Oh, and by the way, I didn't speed it up very much, but this is sped up a little at 150%. So this is a very slow process. Paint a line, bleed it away. Paint a line, bleed it away. And varying my values so that some parts look like they go deep inside and others just to separate where the petals are enough. But I still wanted it to be very dreamy and not so literal, if that makes sense. Like, I guess not photorealistic, because that's not how I roll. But seriously, even sped up, notice how long it's taking me just to do a small segment of the wisteria flowers. And I had to do that over and over, and it's beautiful, but those colors are very bright and my eyes would hurt, and so I would have to take breaks just because my eyes couldn't stare at it any longer. So this painting was probably one of my most labor-intensive and longest paintings I've done in a while. And this technique of painting around certain shapes and bleeding it away, I do the same thing up in the vines and the leaves. Basically, anytime I do one of these big, beautiful, colorful washes, more than likely I'm going to go in and do a bunch of negative painting around shapes that I can pick out to bring a form forward. And of course, watercolor dries pale, so you'll typically have to go in again and strengthen some of your lines. But at the end, I did add some pearlescent white to give some of those blossoms a shimmer, and that really elevated the piece. And that was actually a suggestion from my son, who I think has a great sense of taste. So anyway, that was the Wisteria. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, press that like button so I know to make more like this. And if you want to see more, subscribe because I make videos every Thursday. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!